been a while since I took one of these things apart. The last one I took apart was on an O-Day 28 actually. So it's been a little while. So that's what I'm gonna try to do this morning. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna at least get started on it. May not get it all done this morning, but I've just got a couple hours to piddle on it this morning, so I thought I'd try to get started on it anyway. I'll take this off to start with. This is just a little accessory that holds my cell phone. So I'm gonna take that off, take the wheel off, take the compass and binnacle out. Then this right here comes out, and then there's like a spacer right here. And I've got to take the cables loose underneath from the quadrant to be able to pull the chain out. Like to put the screws and bolts back in as whenever possible so I don't lose them or forget which one goes where. I made that up a few weeks ago to hold my big iPhone there, and it worked good. I used it once so far, whenever I took the boat out of the water. Okay, so that's not doing it. So I put a puller on it. See if I can get it off with that. Edson has a bunch of videos on their website as well as on YouTube that you can access for help with figuring out what to do on these things. You can see there what I did. I just ran that wire through that secondary set of holes and twisted them nice and tight. And so hopefully that will keep the jaws from popping apart on that. The back side of that wheel hub is really rounded, and so my little puller is just not wanting to stay popped on it. It keeps popping off every time I put any tension on it. So like I said, maybe it'll work. I will definitely be giving that a good polishing out before I put that back on. But she's off. So you can see the key there. And the groove that it sits in is not cut all the way through. That way the key, stays locked in and can't vibrate out or whatever if it ever got loose for some reason. And then that's that little locking ring at the back that sets the depth of the wheel. And then this little plastic nut holds it on. And then you can see there where I just ran the tape down there and then just cut it at each layer that I'm going to be taking off. And then I don't even have to think about it when I put it back together. I just put it back together, line up the tape, and I'm done. I don't have to worry about, do I have the screw holes lined up inside it or what? It makes it a little bit faster to put it back together. Now on this little compass here, there's two sets of screws. The little bitty screws is like an inner ring, slightly inner ring. That holds the compass itself together, the moisture cover or whatever. That's not what I'm going to be taking out. I'm going to be taking out these larger screws that's slightly outside of that, the radius of those little screws, a little bit closer to the outer edge. And then on this one, there's 3 screws. So that should lift this out, and then the screws for the binnacle, I think you call it, will be on the inside that you take out. The housing on this thing is made out of aluminum, and then all the fasteners and the shaft and different things are made out of stainless. Parts of it's made out of plastic, but most of it's aluminum and stainless. And then I think the gear is bronze, if I remember right. So you have a lot of different metals and they don't always play nice together when they get wet with salt water especially. See, this here will just pull right out. And then there's the wiring right here. These are your adjustment screws, by the way. When this thing goes in, and it would have been in like this right here, on the sides there's a little rubber plug right here and over here, and you can pull those plugs out and you can get to these adjustment screws, which I won't mess with those. I'm assuming it's already been calibrated, you know, years ago, so I won't mess with that. Fortunately, there is a plug-in on this thing. Sometimes there's no plug-in. Okay, so now there's the compass out, so that's good. So now whenever I put it back in, I mean, it's kind of obvious where these go, because there's two cutouts in the stainless here for them to drop in. It's kind of hard to mess that up. But this extension here, or binnacle here, that can go in 4 different directions. So having the tape on it, just, you know, when you put it back together, it's like quick and easy. You know what you're doing. You know what to do. Let's see. All right, these screws in here are really, really long screws, and they're stainless and aluminum, and they're flathead screws. So let's hope that they come out. And of course, that's the wire for the. All that is for the light, in the compass. So I'm gonna just stick that back in there for right this minute, and I'm gonna have to go find me a screwdriver. And I may not even have a screwdriver of appropriate size. I may have to go to the store and buy a screwdriver, because I broke my screwdriver that's the size I need for this. I broke the tip off of it the other day, using it for something I shouldn't have been using it for. See if I can show you a picture down inside there before I start taking it apart. Okay, so those are the 4 screws that I've got to take out. That takes off the binnacle here, and it also takes out that next spacer where your shifters are, your shifter and your throttle are. This piece here, it all comes out with those same 4 screws. And then way down in there, you can see the drive chain, and that chain goes over a bronze sprocket, and it's a stainless steel shaft that goes through that with needle bearings back here and back here. And right there, that's the brake mechanism that this right here adjusts the brake. And then there's your throttle, and there's your shifter linkage. And of course, you can see the chain down there. The chain is connected to a cable down in here, and then the cable runs through some pulleys and to change the direction of it, and goes around the quadrant and all that to make the turn. It's a cool system. It works really well, but they do have to have some maintenance. You can't nothing lasts forever without some maintenance. And this is should have been done years ago, and it's been neglected. So, and it definitely is an Edson. It's actually got the model and serial number and everything right down there. There's a tag right down in there behind that wire. You can see where it says Edson. I felt confident that it was, just because I've worked on these before. But they always have their name somewhere. Okay, I found a screwdriver. It's not ideal for this. I really need a longer one and with a bigger blade. But the screws, fortunately, have broke loose, so they're going to come out. But they're real long, so it takes a little bit of screwing. Actually, it's a good idea to stuff a rag or some paper towels or something down in there too, in case you drop a screw or something down in here. You don't. I mean, you can eventually get it out at the bottom, but it may end up in your bilge before it's over with, because this is hollow in the bottom where the cables and all go through, and it can fall right on through and get jammed up in that backing plate, or fall on down into the bilge or whatever. Okay. So I had some paper towels there, but I've also got one of these oil absorbing pads. I think that might work. And by the way, these things are cheap. They're like $1 a piece or less. Every boater should keep a bunch of these on their boat. I'm gonna tell you, if you do not want to have to pay the fines from an oil leak or a gas leak, and your biggest culprit is almost always you get oil in your bilge and you don't realize it, and then your bilge pump comes on, pumps it overboard, and just an ounce or two of oil in the water will leave an oil trail you know, a mile long. So it's kind of hard to hide it, hard to get away from it. So, not that you would want to, but easier just to try to keep it under control to start with. And I usually keep these pads in the bilge, directly in the bilge, and under my engine, and in the engine tray if you've got one, and keep a box of them, you know, just handy. Almost never need them, but when you do, you do. And this stainless ring right here is actually pretty sharp. It's not that edge is like stamped out, so it's kind of a sharp edge. So if you're not careful, you'll cut yourself too. Okay, so far so good. So I'm going to take that compass and just set it right back in there. Made compasses for these things, so they won't always be a Ritchie brand. Excuse me, a Ritchie brand, but that's what this one is. All right, now there's now see, that has already turned right there, so that tape on there will help me realign it real quick. Everything right back up. So I've got to take this loose at the floor, and there's I think it's a set screw that goes in the sides of the little floor mount. So I got to try to figure out what I need for that, and then I can pull that out with that little housing right there that supports it. Let's see. Well, one side doesn't even have a screw in it. And the other side has a flat blade screw in it. So that'll come out easy enough. Okay, so that pops right up. Okay, so the next thing I got to do is disconnect the gear shifter and the throttle, and I'll pull them all the way to the top. You can see there's just like a little pin that goes in there. All you do is pull the pin, and that's all you got to do. This side has a split ring on it, and this side over here's got a little cotter key in it. This is rusted out, so this will be pretty easy to do, I think. Simple enough. So that'll be replaced before it goes back together. You do want to make sure you keep your cables organized whenever you put it back together. Sometimes they're different colors, sometimes they're the same color, the cables, housings. And also which hole it was in. That one was in the top hole, so I'm going to go ahead and put this split ring back in there so I won't forget where that one goes. That gives you some adjustment in throw, in the throw of the cable with the lever. So I just need to remember, and I'm going to make a recording of this here to take a photograph of it so I won't forget. Okay, so then that comes off, so that's done. And I just put a bucket over the top of that pedestal for the time being to keep rain out of it, or dew out of it. The chain doesn't have any rust on it at all, so I don't want to start it rusting. Here's my Edson steering helm pedestal. It's upside down right now. I've got to get the corroded aluminum bolts out of the base. I've got some new bolts ordered for it. I'm going to temporarily put it in with some stainless bolts just to get my holes drilled and get everything lined back up. But I'll be putting the aluminums back in, although they corroded certainly as bad as stainless would have. But if you've seen the previous video, the backing plate was completely rusted out, or almost rusted out. I'm going to replace it. Obviously it's too rusty to put back, but it has the idler wheels and all on it that line up the cables and all. And So I'm not going to use that. And I may replace the chain and stuff as well, but I've got another pedestal here that's in fairly good shape. And the backer plate is in really good shape. The wheels and all are in really good shape. So I'm going to use that. But I want to keep my pedestal that I've got because I like the style of it better than this one. But the internal parts are pretty much all the same, so I'll use whichever chain assembly is better and all that. But I'll definitely use that backer off of it. So anyway, I'm going to take a pair of vice grips and see if I can get these broke loose. One of them came out whenever I took it out, but the other three are pretty corroded. So I'm going to just take vice grips, see if I can get them to turn. If not, I'll just cut them off flush and drill them out. So I'm going to drill these out. I couldn't get them to move. They're pretty corroded in there. But these I was able to center punch. You know, I got it here in my shop, so I can drill these pretty easy, I think. I'll drill it with a small bit and then drill it with the full-size bits that could go around. I'll still have to knock out part of the head on the other side, but hopefully this won't be too much trouble.